Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking around the globe in 144 different countries, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we go to 2 billion additional people on the planet by 2050, how are we going to be able to provide them with the quality of life so that they actually thrive instead of just surviving? I have a gentleman who's actually working on a number of those fronts. His name is Joseph. He goes by Joe Martori. He's the operation manager for Martori Mining Enterprises, also the CEO of Sleepy Bear Mining and founder and senior lecturer of the Happy Tortoise College of the Desert. Joe, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
All of these titles, I'm going to start charging you by the number of words in your titles and all these things. But it's great to have you back again.
Thank you.
And I
Great
know
to be here.
you've been on Capitol Hill and talking about all aspects of mining, economic development, and the environment.
Correct. Yep.
So tell us a little bit about these various operations that you have, but Sleepy Bear for one, and then also the College of the Desert on the other. And then we're going to start talking about what the real essence of how we're redeveloping the desert.
Okay. Well, Sleepy Bear Mining, that's our project for my wife and myself. And we've been doing this now since about 2010. And we really started focusing on the land. And we right away did that. We cleared up Sleepy Bear Mining, all the debris and everything there. BLM stopped right in and goes, wow, we can't even believe
Now,
what you guys have
BLM
done."
stands for?
Bureau of Land Management.
That's under the U.S. government, correct?
Department of Interior, yes. And we showed up everything clean, clear, and then we started mining. Once they saw we were getting into practices that they thought were, foreign, we go, no, this is our daily stuff, what we do on how we take care of the animals, the plants, land, even insects. We need a full ecosystem when we do stuff, so we have to make sure everything is just right.
Now, looking at the tortoise, and we're not going to call this a turtle. This is a tortoise. But tell us about this tortoise and why are they so important? And this really, even though you called the Sleepy Bear Mine,
Yep.
I keep saying it's got to be the Happy Tortoise.
Happy
But
Tortoise
anyway,
College of the Desert.
I know, but the whole fact is, why does this represent what you do through your mining operations by this tortoise, and there are many more of them on your site?
Correct. And around us. They're around everywhere. They are on the endangered species list. I don't know why, but they are. But we take care of them. They are important to everything that goes on in an environment for a symbiotic relationship. And they need to be there, and we need to take care of them. And so that's what we do. I think we sent you a picture of one, and it popped out today.
It's right here.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It's right in front of us. And here he is, our sheep crawling across the desert, which is actually at your operation.
Yep.
But tell us about the symbiotic relationship. We see these native species grasses around the tortoise.
Correct.
And of course we have some snakes and we have some bugs we're going to show in just a little bit. But all of this together is actually literally in the middle of your mining operation.
Correct, yes.
Tell us about that.
It's in, around, and everywhere. And it's always been. At most mining operations, they have some kind of animal, insect, water, plants. Everything's there. And
so it really is an ecosystem.
It's really an ecosystem. And we just take care of it from the water we pump to use. We even have fish in our ponds. We
have the photographs of that. We'll show that.
What's really cool about the tortoise here is it just came out day before yesterday. And one of my guys caught it and sent me that, which is amazing. So that means they're coming out now, and this one looks really healthy.
Well, the amazing thing about this, if you look at really the front top of this shell, they still have the dirt from the tunnel when it came out of the earth.
Yep.
This is just an amazing photograph, and I know that when I was out there and visited the 3 days with you, that you had tortoise fences all over the place.
Yes.
Tell us about what's a tortoise fence.
Well, a tortoise fence is to protect the tortoises from going into mining areas. But we watch it because the tortoise fences sometimes put them at risk from the ravens. the ravens actually kill the tortoises. And so, so we really watch that. We try to protect them from our mining operation, but when we're doing that according to the law, it hurts them. So we actually walk around constantly, check it out, make sure nobody's just cruising along the fence line or anything like that.
Now, looking at this area, this is, you know, let's say this is day one as far as this debris, because you've actually pulled this out of the desert and you're extracting the gold from it. So, and we see the plants growing. Now, tell us what is unique about what you're doing and the responsiveness of the plants themselves.
Well, the plants here, these are sagebrush. They take a long time to grow. And as you can see in this picture, they are growing in our tailings pile. We haven't even had a chance to reclaim yet, and they're growing. Why? Mother Nature. She's awesome. All we need is some rain from her, and everything just blooms. And so this is what happens. So that's why we showed in tailings pile how fast something just grows with Mother Nature's help.
Right.
And we didn't reseed or anything. We haven't even claimed it yet.
Well, most of the work that you're doing, and I know this because I was with you, is that within 24 to 36 hours, you're actually taking the dirt back to contour.
Correct.
Within that steady period of time.
Yes.
And my understanding is you're only extracting how many pounds out of 1 ton of dirt?
Yeah, with 1 yard of dirt, which is about a ton, 1.3 tons, we're pulling out about between 3 and 6 pounds.
3 to 6 pounds out of a ton plus.
And everything goes right back in the ground. And as you see in this photo here, that was a 43-foot pit. And now the water...
Now where it's flat.
Yes, that whole area there. And so the water goes right down the center of it. There's plants already going. We did not reseed on purpose. We wanted to show different agencies and groups that you don't have to. If you let Mother Nature handle it, she'll take care of everything. So everything there is done by Mother Nature. We did not reseed. We can and we will probably some point, but there's really no need to, it looks like.
Now looking at this, the one thing that I found interesting, and of course I come off of a ranching, farming background myself, is when you take this soil, some of this has been compacted for 50,000 years or 1,000,000 years or whatever. And when you're extracting that, you're putting water back into that 45 or 50 feet, whatever you're going down to at this particular spot.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you're bringing oxygen into the soil, you're bringing moisture all the way through that strata. So is that why the plants are thriving and also the critters come back? Tell us about the critters.
Oh my gosh.
What are critters?
The critter, I'll use a tortoise for example, because they really love it. Jackrabbits, they love it. But the second we've reclaimed that land, we usually within 3 months, we see, depending on the time of year, we see the animals already burrowing in. They could be burrowing anywhere else, but for some reason, they love that reclaimed land. It's a little bit looser, it's cooler.
Well, it has oxygen, it has
moisture, everything there, it needs it. And the insects come right away. I mean, the insects just, they're happy campers.
Now this goes to the heart of what you're really talking about, how this is a volunteer, but you're seeing this volunteer sagebrush all over this area, right?
Correct. And as you can see there, some of the stuff that looks dead is really not dead. The burrow bush, the different bushes and stuff, they're actually alive. They just look dead, but they're alive, and that's the way they look. And they're all through there is everything. And this is a typical thing that miners do is we'll reclaim, then we recontour, we put stakes at either end, we take elevation shots before we start. So we have everything right back.
That's what I was saying, back to contour is what it was before.
Contour and grade,
I mean, this is just incredible, and you can see these small grasses and other things are growing, and again, this is all volunteer.
Everything's volunteer.
It's amazing. Now, among this, I think this is the area we're walking where we actually went by the tortoise burrows.
Correct.
In this very area that you're talking about right here, and they're just out in the desert.
They're out in the desert, the snakes are out there.
We had scorpions too.
Oh,
I remember that day. I was sidestepping scorpions. So we were out
plenty
there.
of scorpions, tarantulas.
Now, looking at this, tell us what we're seeing here. This is a little different terrain than what we had before.
This is called sea pit. And this one, as you can see, it's complete. It's done. It grows back every year after rains and grass and everything. Everything goes right back. But you can't even tell we were there, you know.
So this is really, because of the photographs and all that you're taking, this is actually back to contour.
All back to contour.
All back to contour. Yep. And this is all volunteer. Everything we see that's
volunteer.
Green, brown, whatever it is, that's all living.
It's all living.
All living
Everything's
plants.
living there. Yep.
Now, what's going on here?
Well, we like our ecosystem. We use every part of our ecosystem also. So we have fish in the ponds. The fish make stuff float up to the surface. We have little floaties, so he grabs all that for mulch to put in the garden. And our gardens are all fed by fish, mulch and stuff. And this is one of our gardens. We
use no chemical fertilizers,
no.
insecticides, pesticides?
None at all. We use bugs for, if we need some kind of insecticide, we use bugs or something natural.
Something natural.
Most of the time we don't need it, but you can see there are watermelons, 62 and 72 pounds.
Oh.
I mean, they're huge.
This is
and
incredible.
Sweet. All the stuff is sweet there.
Now, going to the Bureau of Land Management, the
Yes.
BLM, at one time, most miners are always in a squawk box with BLM. But that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. There seems to be real cooperation, real collaboration. Here you are in the mothership as far as BLM. So tell us about this relationship, and we have to be, well, we got about 2 minutes, but tell us about that. And then I want to talk about this article that you found from 1862.
Well, Minerals and Mining Advisory Council is one of our companies that we realize, and we're trying to educate miners across the United States, we're in 21 states, how BLM and the miner can work together. Department of Interior, BLM can work together in a relationship, and that we can manage the lands, manage the areas and everything under what's called mining districts. They're already on the books, they're congressionally ratified, they've been there since the 1800s. And so we're bringing all this back into place so we can really monitor the lands and show, we have models in place for land reclamation and how to take care of animals and plants and everything. And that's what we were presenting here to show.
Yeah, and the thing whole about this is that you're doing the mining, so you're creating jobs, you're creating, enhancing the local economies. You're actually improving the environment, not just protecting it, but improving it. And at the same time, that you're allowing local communities to be involved.
Definitely.
So all of this, so tell us about that.
Got to have the local communities involved. Without local communities, you know, you're just a person out there, and that's not good.
And this is this is the advisory council. This is a nonprofit, and so this is very important.
Not a nonprofit. We're a profit there.
Yeah,
it's a good one. Oh, sorry.
Yep. So anyway, looking at this, what do you see for the growth and development of Sleepy Bear and the MMVC?
Sleepy Bear and MAC, we're trying to be the models for California, and to show everybody can work together.
And then carrying it forward around the United States.
Carrying it forward across the United States. Yep.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being here. This is Joe Martori. He's the operations manager, Martori Mining Enterprises, the CEO, Sleepy Bear Mining, and founder and senior lecturer for Happy Tortoise College of the Desert.
There you go.
And thank you for being here as we look around the globe to help create the Emerald Planet.
Strawberries? Okay.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. and move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we look around the globe looking for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, products, and of course the people that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we go to a planet of 9 billion people, how we're going to be able to sustain them, the food, the fuel, the fiber, all the basic infrastructure, and then how we're going to be able to pay for that. And I have a gentleman sitting right beside me that's actually addressing all of these issues. He's been on Emerald Planet before. This is Joseph. He goes by Joe Martori. He's the operations manager from Martori Mining Enterprises, CEO of the Sleepy Bear Mining, and founder and senior lecturer for the Happy Tortoise College of the Desert. And Joe, welcome back to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you with us. And if we can bring up your logo here, I want to talk about this logo a little bit, if we can get this up on the screen. But looking at this, why Sleepy Bear? You're in the middle of the desert. There aren't many bears out there.
Well, I was told I was like a sleepy bear at some points during the day, and it sort of stuck. And so we left it Sleepy Bear Mining.
Okay, that's absolutely fantastic. I love that. But going to the Bureau of Land Management, the BLM.
Yes.
This is something that's really important, and this is something we've talked about in the past. And actually, when I was visiting with you, we talked a lot about this, how that you've really established this collaborative relationship with BLM. And I know that you're on several advisory councils. Tell us about those advisory councils and how they work, and why are they important not only for all the miners and the environment, but also for BLM itself?
Well, BLM has helped us organize what's called public roundtable committees and steering committees. And what we do, that's where we get voted on, and everybody, the committee has everybody, save the tortoise, save the squirrel, save the tree, mining, all the way around the realm.
Everybody that's a stakeholder.
Yes, correct, all stakeholders. So that way it's a real committee. And then from that committee, we go to what's called an advisory council committee, which goes directly to DC. And these here, the advisory council committees, they actually talk with BLM and go, hey, this is what it looks like is really needed.
Again, the Bureau of Land Management.
Bureau of Land Management, sorry. Looks like that's really what's needed at that level there. So that's why these committees are really important. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to educate the miners across the United States on working with the Department of Interior, BLM, a Bureau of Land Management, through these committees to start with.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. And this is you actually in Washington, D.C. as representing all that. Now, you helped to establish this Minerals and Mining Advisory Council.
Correct.
Now, who does it represent? Who's involved, and why is that important? And then, in turn, how does that relate to the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management?
It represents concerned miners for the environment, for how mining is done, to show environmental groups, to show the government stuff that miners really care and love the earth, and we are there to take care of it. And so it's done through what's called mining districts, MAC-assisted mining districts. MAC is Minerals and Mining Advisory Council, shortened up MAC. So MAC-assisted mining districts, and the Department of Interior, BLM, loves the consistency that we have across the United States. And so in doing this, you know, there's other mining districts that do it their way. But this way we have consistency. They know what our agenda and goals are.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And looking at this organization, is that you're representing the miners themselves, but also their families.
Yes.
So then you're reaching into the community and strengthening those relationships with the community through MAC to the Bureau of Land Management, correct?
And not just the community, all the vendors that go along with it. One mining operation might, let's say, employs 100 people, But that's just right there. Then you have all the vendors, the extra vendors that they have to employ, all the way down the line. So there could be...
So it's a ripple effect.
It's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is something that anywhere from 5 to 7 other people will live off of, an organization like that.
Yep.
Now, going back to the tortoise, this is something we've shared with our viewers before, but looking at this tortoise, this is something that's really special. But I want to go to this article that you have from 1862. It's actually a copy of this right in front of you. Share that with us. And what is the meaning of that? And really, we jump forward from 1862 into the current day, and you can see the historical thread of all of this.
Yes. Well, a lot of people do not understand or realize that miners were the first environmentalists. This started in 1862 in the article I'll talk about here, so that's why we don't just take care of animals, we take care of trees, plants. And in this one here in 1862 in Pine Grove and Howard Flat, the mining district saw so much want and destruction of the trees, they actually wrote it into their bylaws to protect these trees, all the trees, because there was just timber just cut down for the heck of it, for them to just see the timber cut down, dozens of trees. And once they saw that nobody was using it for anything, mining wasn't getting to use it at all, they said, hey, we're going to put this in here and we're going to start protecting these trees.
That's absolutely amazing. Of course, that really runs counter to what a lot of people think as far as mining and miners and all that. And the question I had about how can you have a program on green mining, is it really true? And I said, yes, and I've been there. So I've actually had a chance to see it. But looking at these tortoises, this really lets you know that this legacy is actually paying off, and you see this is literally in the middle of the desert.
In the middle of the desert.
And how much rainfall.
And that's a good size one too. That's probably a good 14, 15 incher there.
Yeah, this is just absolutely amazing, these tortoises. Now, going to the Happy Tortoise, that you and I worked on and established. I'll take claim for some of that.
There you go.
College of the Desert. Tell us about that. And these people are actually in the desert, in the College of the Desert.
Happy Tortoise College of the Desert, we actually get out there, and we're bringing this into MAC also, but we get out there and we actually educate from the youngsters all the way up. People bring their grandkids out, their kids out, and everything. So we show them how to pan, get that gold fever. Once they get the gold fever, we go into little lectures and stuff with them on now how you take care of the land. This one here, for example, is a different one. This one was several environmental communities that I let them come out. I asked them to come out if they wanted to. I welcomed them. I showed them our whole ecosystem out there and how it worked, how mining works, and then how the ecosystem works. And they were blown away. And I mean,
and these are actually environmental groups themselves,
definitely.
and for the first time, many of these had ever even seen a mining operation.
Correct, some of them. Some of them are Sierra Club, some are Center for Biodiversity, various groups like that, and smaller groups. And they loved it. They couldn't believe it. So I walked through everything, how mining works, what we do, how we put everything back in the ground. Then I took them out to the pit. And this is pit B1. And then they were shocked. I told them nothing, we didn't seed anything. We didn't seed anything. So they're checking out how the health of everything, the plants were healthy. They checked out our fish in our pond, they were healthy. And they just loved everything. Matter of fact, they helped us. We had too many fish. So they showed us how to get sterile carp in there to start eating some of our fish.
Oh, I've been on. But looking at this now, these are environmental groups. They're actually on site. They're out in the middle of the desert. You have your claim on this. It's about, if I remember correctly, about 1,412 acres, plus or minus a few acres, and it's a huge expanse of land in the Mojave Desert.
Yes.
It's dry and very hot.
Yep.
But yet we see living things there.
Yes.
So what was the impression that they had seeing these living things in an area that's actively being mined?
They're used to sort of seeing some of it, but to see it reclaimed like that, they weren't used to. And I explained to them, this is how we do it. And this is how it runs, how it works. Here's the time frames on everything. And so that they weren't used to, and they were surprised. They happily surprised.
Yeah. Now looking at this is some of your equipment. They're showing it how it's used. So when they go through this College of the Desert, they really are learning everything about your operation. So
correct.
Complete transparency, correct?
Complete transparency. Matter of fact, this group flew all the way out from London. So we had them fly all the way out. They flew out. They asked us, yep, come on out. And they picked a day, and we were working, and they just jumped right in.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, looking at this, we're looking at these concentric wheels, these separators. Tell us how these work and why this is so different than anything else that's going on in alluvial or placer mining anywhere in the world.
Well, because this works on specific gravity. So everything has a specific gravity, and these work on there. They have low fuel usage, so maybe 8 to 10 gallons per shift. They have
typically how much would be used?
8 to 10 gallons.
No, how much would be used?
Oh gosh.
I think you told me 50 gallons
50,
at one
yeah,
time.
50 gallons, something like that.
So you're using less than a fourth of what you would normally use.
Less fuel, less water. We only use 60 gallons a minute on this. We don't need big water tables. We don't crush anything. That's the big thing. A lot of places you have to crush to get your material out. We don't crush. Whatever we can glean from the earth, from the dirt, we glean it, that 3 to 6 pounds, and then everything goes right back in the ground.
And that's what this equipment is for, we're looking at right here.
Yes, it cuts down the whole carbon footprint and everything.
Yeah, well, this is just amazing. Now, about the fish.
Yeah.
Tell us about the fish.
Well, we started with 21 fish. I did not realize that 21 fish could turn into 4,000 fish. We have about 4,000 fish in this pond now, all the way up to 4 pounds. Some gorgeous fish, all different colors. And that's where some of the groups that were out there said they can help us. And
but tell us why this is important, though. There's a bigger message than this.
Yep, it shows that the water we are mining with, after everything done, that fish can still live in it. No weird things with them or anything like that.
Because you're not using chemicals.
We don't use chemicals.
Yeah,
Nope,
and
not at all.
that's the whole thing. And also, you're recycling 95% of the water.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, that's the bigger picture, is that you're using about 95% less water, so only 5% is going into it. And of course, that water then goes back into the soil, which allows the critters to come in.
That's it.
Okay, what are we looking at here? This looks like a little team.
Well, you know, if you don't have bugs are so important to a symbiotic and ecosystem relationship. And it is so cool to see the bugs come back. And we had hundreds of these bugs and come back. That was just one type, but there was hundreds. And so they're part of the ecosystem, and they come back healthy and happy as ever.
And these plants are all natural?
All natural, no seeded.
Now tell us about this critter.
Well, we got a lot of snakes out there where we're at. This is called the Mojave Green. And typically you got about 20 minutes to get an anti-venom in you.
Yeah, and you're dead. And the day we came out, the day we met you, you said, wow, this is the first time I've seen one of these in this spot. And this is a totem from one of the Indian tribes. I was just absolutely amazed at that. Going to the Mines Mineral Advisory Council, what do you see for the growth and development over the next 5, 10, 15 years? We got to be quick.
Growth and development, we see it going strong and across the United States and helping many, many people.
Yeah, that's fantastic. This is Joe Martori, my good buddy, Martori Mining Enterprises, founder and lecturer of the Happy Tortoise College of the Desert. Thank you for being with us, Joe.
Thank you very much
for having me. Thank you for being here as we create the Emerald Planet.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs? Just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
We just finished dinner and it was time for homework. He hates homework. I know he's bright.
Why is it so hard for me?
He's
I'm
just
trying
gotta
as
try a
hard
little
as
harder.
I can.
1 in 5 children struggle with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to understood.org.
It's it's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Most party fouls? Not a big deal. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. on a week-to-week basis as we look around the globe for what we call the best of the best. The best practices, the solutions are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And we have two gentlemen, and I'm going to be quick on the introduction because they are doing such fabulous work to protect the environment, to bring about new green jobs, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and so many of the important things as we move through the 21st century. The first gentleman who's coming in actually from Oregon, he's coming in by telephone. This is Joseph. He goes by Joe Green, Western Oregon Administrator and the National Advisor for the Minerals and Mining Advisory Council. You see their, hopefully their logo here in a minute. And he was also a research biologist, retired from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, US EPA, and sitting right beside me, our good friend from California, Joseph Martori, Operations Manager, Martori Mining Enterprises, CEO, Sleeping Bear Mining, and also founder and senior lecturer of Happy Tortoise College of the Desert. And Joe, I understand you're here by telephone. Are you with us? Joe, are you with us? Okay, I guess we're getting Joe on the telephone. Tell us a little bit, kick us off about Joe. What is a national advisor as far as the MMAC?
What Joe does is he helps other miners across the United States and specifically in Oregon, but he does across the United States too, on how to take care of the lands, how to mine, how to work mining districts, so we can get back to local governing bodies for areas so we can really take care of the land.
Yeah, and that's really something that's very important because people at the local level are definitely going to be more conscious of what needs to be done within their own local community because it is your community that you're working on. Joe, are you with us by telephone yet?
Yes, I am.
Okay, glad to have you with us. And Joe Martori, your good friend and colleague, just went over what the MMAC, the MAC is. And but tell us a little bit about what you're doing out there in Oregon. And we're starting with the slides. We have the first one here out on the river with the deer. Beautiful sight. But yet this is a mining operation. So how can you have mining, a pristine river, and the deer and all this foliage all around, all in the same place?
Well, you know, this mining practice is, according to EPA, a best management practice. Now, I can, for the last 20 years, starting in 1992, I could provide 9 environmental impact reports, biological opinions, and a couple of real special science reports, and they all come to the same conclusion, that the impact of small-scale suction dredging on the environment is less than significant. Every single one used almost the same terminology.
Now, looking at this, and we're actually looking at this, I guess you would call this a dredge, but tell us the equipment we're looking at here. It's actually out on the river floating and tethered, of course. So what is actually happening here? And I'm looking to the immediate left of this equipment, and you have actually high-level rapids going on right beside where this is all set up.
Yeah, this dredge here is in operation, and these dredges are essentially a vacuum cleaner. So the miner is up front of that dredge, down at the bottom of the river, running a hose. And he will suck up the smaller material that will work through his hose and it would come up over the sluice box, this large metal area you see in the middle of the dredge, and that has riffles going crossways, which as the water flows over it causes a vacuum in those riffles, and that captures all of the heavy materials. Well, you know, we're out there to be gold miners, but it captures the lead weights and fishing and all sorts of things, which I'll show you later.
Yeah, but looking at this, we'll go back to the gentleman. He's here. He's actually hosing this up, and then it's going back up into the dredge, and I guess you would call this is like a sluice box here. So how are you protecting the fish and the other, and I'm going to use the very scientific term, critters, are protected from this type of operation?
Yeah, the very, very critical thing with the Northwest here is the protection of salmon. And there's a lot of criticism about running these dredges because they'll suck up the salmon eggs, or off the back they will smother and bury these eggs and sensitive life stages. There's no truth to that. In fact, all of the state fish and wildlife agencies set up in-water work periods. So the miners can only mine about 3 to 3.5 months per year, because of the rest of that time, these sensitive life stages are in the waterways. So they are protected by law, by the seasons that we can work. And these seasons are the exact same seasons that are used for construction in waterways and building the bridges and the like.
Now we're looking at this, I guess this again is a much smaller operation. The gentleman standing here, but it looks like it's the same type of system in this photograph that we have here, if we can get our photograph back. And the whole thing about this is that he's working that water, so actually this is actually hosing it up directly into the sluice gate?
Well, at this point, this is the cleanup. That is actually me. That's a 4-inch dredge. And that's one of my points is, there I am, 6'3", 200 pounds. Look how small that dredge is. That's a pretty standard dredge. They don't make them larger than 8-inch dredges. Myself and another individual could grab the sides of that dredge and slide that into the back of a pickup truck between the wheel wells without even dismantling. That's how small these are.
Now, looking at this photograph of the fish, tell us what we're looking at here. And I want to say, Joe, these are absolutely incredible photographs.
Well, those are young fish. You know, they still have the egg sac on them. They call them sac fry, or soon they'll be alluvians, and then there'll be little fish swimming around. And these are some of the life stages right after hatching that we're very, very concerned about protecting. And that's why we do not operate these dredges when these sensitive life forms are in the waterways.
Okay, so actually what you're doing here as far as this operation, we're looking at this cleanup dredge. It has little to no impact as far as the fish that we're looking at right here in this photograph?
That's right, because there's no overlap between the operation and the presence of those sensitive life stages in the waterways.
I see, I see. Mm-hmm. Now, looking at this photograph here, what is it that we're talking about?
Which photograph now?
The photograph, the ones we have with the bottles. It's the same as on your screen on your computer.
You know, this is really interesting because just let's assume that the sensitive life stages were in the waterway, which they're not. But they're saying that these dredges and the sediments coming off the back of those dredges is going to smother and bury these eggs. And so I wanted to show you the real world. This is the Klamath River at flood stage in early winter. The salmon eggs are already, either the salmon are still coming in or the eggs have been laid in the salmon nests. And then we have this kind of turbidity in the real world. Then you'll see in the next pictures the kinds of turbidity going off of the back of the dredges. And there's just no comparison that there's not any reality in the charge that's being laid.
Right. Okay. So this is actually the standard river that you're really talking about, and it shows the water and the samples that have been taken. And then this is showing the actual dredging area as we're looking at it, and you're off to the side here. And again, you say this only goes on, what, 3.5 months of the year?
That's right. And also, you could have noticed on that last photograph that upstream from where the folks were dredging, there were people up there swimming. You see them up there on the shoreline.
Oh yeah, I can see them. I can see them right
swimmers,
now.
yeah.
So how big are these dredges that we're looking at right now, Joe?
Just like that one I showed you with me standing next to it. Those are probably 4-inch dredges.
What did you say, Joe? Give me the dimension again.
Those are what we would call a 4-inch dredge.
4-inch dredge. Now, what does 4-inch dredge mean? Because these look much larger than 4 inches.
Yeah, the dredges are defined, as I said earlier, by the dimension of the intake nozzle.
I see. Okay, that's what we wanted to clarify for our viewers, so they, because you're saying this is some feet long, you say a 4-inch dredge, so we want to make sure that we clarify for this. And actually, this is a pristine area where you're working. Now, looking at this photograph here, what are we actually looking at?
Well, you can see 2 dredges there and about in the center of the photograph, and if you look to the right of those, you can see that they've made pools.
Okay. And making pools, now tell us, what does that really mean?
Well, what the goal is of a miner is to make a hole to get down to the bedrock. And the bedrock, you will get gold as you go through the overburden, but the biggest and best gold is on the bedrock or in the cracks of the bedrock, so that's always a goal.
And that's just like our good friend Joe Martori is sitting right beside me in the studio. He's going down to either the impervious clay or bedrock in the area looking for that black sand, correct, Joe?
Yes.
Black sand layers.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, now looking at this dredge out here, you see this pristine area, and you don't really see any discharge in this particular photograph.
Well, you see the plume, the dredge plume, that's your discharge. You know, you never really see the gravel because it just drops out downstream of the dredge. But the important thing about this picture here is that almost immediately the plume is disappearing. It's dissipated just due to dilution.
And again, this is just all by nature and everything. Now we're looking at this, it looks like a ravine going down to the river. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here.
Well, what you're seeing here in the foreground is the largest legal dredge that can be used up in Idaho. That's an 8-inch dredge. And you'll see in the background across the river, there goes some rafters down the river. So it's not interfering with their use at all. But when you look at this satellite photograph, and if you were to look to the left at end of the arrow, there's a spot there in the river. It's that dredge that's working there. And at this point, we're talking about the effect of scale also. Not only do they not cause a significant impact on the environment, but these dredges are very small, the impact is very local, and you don't see just lines and lines of dredges over the miles.
What about the fishies we're looking at right now?
The fish?
Yes.
The fish love to swim behind the operating dredges because when we start working, the top 3 inches of the layer on the river bottom is where the biological life is. You can get insects, bacteria, macro and micro invertebrates, and those will also be sucked up and cast out the back of the sluice box. And apparently the fish figure that out real fast, and they start showing up behind the dredges and feasting.
This is amazing. Joe Green, the Western Oregon Administrator, National Advisor, Minerals and Mining Advisory Council, thank you for being with us. Thank you for showing all the fish and these dredges and everything that's going on as we create the Emerald Planet.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation. You're resigning.
Why? You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
Oh, I forgot. I'll do better. Please don't quit on me.
Don't let your heart quit on you. Get your uncontrolled high blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late.
So you can't save money? That's easy as pie. Brown bagging lunch instead of going out. $6 save times 5 days a week times 10 years is $21,000. That's a lot of lettuce. Small changes today, big bucks tomorrow. Feedthepig.org.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally. I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls.
But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on a sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a weekly basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, and products as we go through the 21st century. I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. And we're talking about all the best of the best practices. And one of the things that we're talking about right now is this notion of mining and the importance to the environment, importance to local economies, green jobs creation, and I'm purposely saying green jobs creations in the mining industry, and the fact that we're able to balance the economics, the environment, and civil society development all together. And I have an expert that's coming on to talk about this. He's formerly a research biologist, retired from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. This is Joseph Green, Western Oregon Administrator and National Advisor for the Minerals and Mining Advisory Council, MMAC USA. And then Joe Martori is here from California, Operations Manager for Martori Mining Enterprises, CEO of Sleepy Bear Mining, and founder and senior lecturer of Happy Tortoise College of the Desert. And Joe, you're here by telephone. I believe you're still with us.
I am.
Welcome. Looking at the Minerals and Mining Advisory Council, and you have these two grand titles, Western Oregon Administrator and National Advisor. Tell us what you do and why is that important, and are there other national advisors with the Minerals and Mining Advisory Council?
Well, there are 10 national advisors, and 2 of us are advisors that are actually administrators. And Claudia Wise and I are administrators for Western Oregon. But what we do is we help all individuals or other administrators that require some assistance in getting a mining district set up. We assist them to ensure that the paperwork that they do is properly done and in proper order.
Now, looking at your title here, you're a retired research biologist, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, U.S. EPA, yet you're working very wholeheartedly with the mining industry and with miners. Tell us the juxtaposition of EPA and mining.
Well, back about the year 2000, there started court cases suing miners for mining, and I was concerned, being a lifetime environmentalist and a researcher, so I developed a hypothesis that small-scale gold suction dredge mining was harmful to the environment. And after doing extensive literature search and covered everything I could find in the libraries, I was not able to support that hypothesis. I found that seriously, properly operated suction dredging is not harmful to the environment. It actually has some benefits as well.
Yeah, that's something that's really important. Of course, I tell the story. I went out to California as a financial advisor with Joe and his Sleepy Bear Mining. I went there to stay for 3 hours, and I stayed 3 days after I got out there, and to realize that green mining really existed, was going on. And so we're looking at this first photograph here, and I think you had something to do with this, but tell us what we're seeing here and how are miners actually helping to protect the environment, but not only just protect it, to actually clean it up?
Well, totally by accident due to the hydrology and how it operates in a river system. We've become garbage men as well as miners. This first photograph was taken from a miner who cleaned this up in 1 year on his mining claim on the American River. And if you look closely at this, this is not mining waste. This is fishing waste. This is water bottles. This is sunglasses. This is waste from these people that think they're great environmentalists and are out enjoying the environment and not causing any harm. And the issue here is out of sight, out of mind. All this stuff goes underwater and it's gone. But by the nature of the way the water forces gold to locate in certain areas, those same currents bring all of this trash into where a miner would prefer to work to mine for his gold.
Yeah, and you're looking at this in the second photograph. This is just incredible what people are leaving out there. And again, as you were saying, many of these are real sports persons, very concerned on the environment. Many of these are actually environmentalists, are out there and enjoying nature, but at the same time trying to protect it and doing analysis. And the miners are actually doing the cleanup. So yes. Tell us about, just that mindset of a miner. Why do they take such care over making sure that all this trash, garbage, in essence, gets recycled?
Well, I think it's because we can. The miners are hunters, fishermen, they're outdoors people, they're environmentalists. Certain organizations try to separate and segregate so that you can say there's good guys and bad guys. But the miners are not the bad guys. They're just out there trying to supplement their incomes, and they love the outdoors. Myself, I love being underwater, and that's what I do.
Now, looking at this next photograph here, as far as the water bottles and all these other kinds of things, what, people are literally just throwing this into the rivers. Is this being washed out of communities down through the stormwater drains? Where is all this coming from? I mean, this is many pounds, maybe a ton of rubbish we're looking at.
Yeah, those are coming from the rafters primarily. Maybe some fishermen out there have a water bottle beside them, drops off the boat. Yeah, these are from other recreationalists that have different uses on the river.
I mean, this is incredible. Now, what is in all of these pans that we're looking at here? I know some of these are gold mining pans, others are just buckets. What are we demonstrating here with all this metal that's in these various pans and buckets?
Yes, if you go to the next slide, that's fishing weights. You'll see many of those. That's it there with all those fishing weights. But important in the center in the top pan, you see that big silver puddle?
Yes.
That's elemental mercury.
That's mercury.
And that's mercury. We take that out of the rivers. The State Water Resources Control Board did a study some years ago using a 4-inch dredge that was not good technology, and they still captured 98% of the mercury that went through their dredge. So,
and again, going back to a 4-inch dredge, that means what?
Well,
4-inch dredge. What does that mean?
We always talk about a 4-inch dredge because that's the diameter of the intake nozzle,
okay.
But that's the most common size of the small-scale dredge.
We have to be sure we define this each time because we have different viewers for each one of these shows, so we got to always explain what we're talking about. Okay, looking at this, so this is just more rubbish that the miners are actually pulling out of the rivers, the areas where they're actually working. So in a sense, they're really in repairing and enhancing the rivers instead of doing any particular damage.
Yeah, more so than people understand. If you look in this photograph here, up at the far right-hand corner, you'll see a bottle. There's a bottle of mercury. So this is another individual that's been collecting mercury as he dredges for gold.
Yeah, Joe, you had a question.
Yeah, I was looking at that. That's a lot of mercury. Whether people know it or not, that weighs a lot. It's a lot of mercury, and the dredges really do a great job on pulling it out.
Yeah, and this whole thing about mercury, I mean, that is really a hazardous material, and that's nigh to death when you look at how this was used centuries ago. People would use this in a few years, they'd actually be dead. So What you're doing then, Joe, with these dredges is there's no chemicals in that process, correct?
There's no chemicals whatsoever. All we do is vacuum the water and the rocks and sand from up front and pass that through our dredge.
It looks like I've just lost my dinner here. The bird got my fish.
Well, I'm just making a point that as we do our work, we leave behind what is called refugia. These holes that we drill into the river bottom to get down to the bedrock for gold, we leave those behind at the end of the season when we pull out. And soon after we pull out, then the salmon runs will start coming in. And these refugia, they're not only resting areas, but they're a deeper water so that the fish can get down deeper in the water and these birds can't come down and prey on them.
So in other words, you're actually protecting the fish from the birds by actually having these, if you can, a deep divot or a hole then in the riverbed itself.
Yes, and they're important resting areas because the typical refugia are just found when a confluent stream comes into a larger river. But sometimes these confluent streams are miles apart, so there might be a rest area in between there left behind by a miner.
Now we're looking at this school of fish. Tell us about this, and I think this goes to this refuge that you're talking about right now.
It does. You know, that's a very, very large dredge hole where the salmon came in, so if they need to rest, they can actually drop down a little bit of depth in the water so that they're below the force and velocity of the river flowing by, so they can circle in there and rest, and then when they're ready to come up and move farther upstream to spawn, then they can just come up and move ahead.
Now I would assume too, Joe, looking at this, is that's where a lot of the food matter is going and collecting for the salmon to feed. Is that correct?
Salmon do not feed when they come in to spawn. They go up, spawn, and die. Yeah.
Now I have these two black and white photographs here, and we're running out of time. These photographs are so fantastic, so we're going to quickly go through this. I got the two black and whites, and then we have the 3 color photos right at the end. We got to be quick. We got about less than a minute.
Okay, very quickly, the first photograph merely shows a couple of operating dredges, and you can see the lines of gravel downstream of those dredges. The second photograph is of the exact same area, making the point that Mother Nature cleans these areas up and spreads out that gravel, and it just takes care of itself. So once the miners leave and the refugia are not necessary anymore, the high water comes down and flushes all that, spreads it out, and that gravel from the mining in the following year is excellent spawning gravel if it's located in the right spots on the river.
Yeah, I think this is just absolutely fantastic. Thank you for being. We're going to lose you, Joe, in just a minute, so we're going to leave these images up here for everybody to see, particularly with this group out there. Joe, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
And Joe, thank you for coming on and being with us. This is Joe Green and Dr. Sam Hancock as we're looking around the globe, looking for these 1,000 best practices, the best of the best, the solutions as we go forward to the 21st century as we create the Emerald Planet.